Hey kids, how are you doing? Good to see you again. Today we are making vegan banana muffins. Yummy. With optional chocolate chips if you want them, which I added on my own. So first off, we're going to wash our hands. Make sure you wash your hands. Number one, always important thing. And then we are going to gather our ingredients. And don't worry if you miss something, I'm going to put the link for the recipe in the notes. So don't worry if you don't catch everything I say. So for this recipe, we need some pretty basic kitchen stuff. We've got flour, white sugar, brown sugar, cinnamon, baking soda, and baking powder, oil, salt, and it says a non-dairy milk. I have coconut milk on hand. If you have almond milk, that works fine. But if you have cow's milk, you can do that as well. They just won't be vegan, no big deal. Whatever you have. And then we also need some basic supplies. So we've got our measuring cups. And we've got a masher. If you don't have a masher for the bananas, you can also use a fork. That's fine. Our stirring spoon, our tablespoon, and then I'm going to use a half teaspoon. And of course, I forgot, most important thing, bananas. Need those for the banana muffins. And you want to make sure that your bananas are nice and ripe. So the more brown, the better, the more sweet they'll be. All right, so first we're going to start off with mixing our dry ingredients together. So I'm going to remove our big bowl, put it back here to keep our workstation as clean as possible. And I'm going to grab my half cup measure. So I like to bake, I like to use as few measuring tools as possible. So if we do our dry ingredients first, then we can do our wet ingredients afterwards, and the dry ingredients would stick if we did the wet first. So we're going to do 1.5 cups of flour. So I'm going to use my half measuring cup. So 3 half cups would equal 1.5. So what you want to do is scoop your flour, make sure it's nice and level on the top, and that's 1/2. Nice and level on the top, plus 1/2 equals 1 cup. And then 1 more half more. Again, you can, if you want, you can use a knife to level across the top. I just use my finger and it's perfectly level. So that's 1.5 cups of flour. And then I'm going to just move my flour out of my workspace to make space so I'm not too cluttered. And our next step is going to be our white sugar. So we use 1/2 cup of white sugar. So for sugar, since it comes out pretty nicely, I'm just going to pour it into my 1/2 cup. And then I'm just going to make sure that it's nice and level, perfect, and pour it in. And then I'm going to move my sugar back here, get it out of the way. My next dry ingredient is going to be my brown sugar. So brown sugar is a little bit different. You want brown sugar to be nice and tightly packed. So I have a 1/4 cup brown sugar, so I'm going to scoop it into my bag. And what I do is I just push that sugar in while it's in the bag, and it comes out perfect. Drop it in. And it's going to, brown sugar is kind of fun because it will hold its shape. I don't know if you can see that. It'll hold its shape when you put it out. So move that out of the way. So let's do a quick stir with our spoon. Break it all up. So these are considered our dry ingredients, even though brown sugar is a little bit wet, a little bit sticky. Stir this up. And then our next step is we're going to add our baking soda and our baking powder. So I have a 1/2 teaspoon here. So I need 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. This one right here. And these containers are great because they have a little lid right here that you can make sure it's nice and level. So you scoop it in and then you scrape it on that lid and it gives you the perfect amount. So 1/2 teaspoon of soda. Move that out of the way. And then we're going to do a full teaspoon of powder. So for a full teaspoon, we need 2 half teaspoons. That equals 1 full teaspoon. So again, I'm going to use that nice lid, scrape it, pour it in. And 1 more, scrape it, and pour it in. Awesome. Okay. Let's get that out of the way. And then we're doing a pinch of salt. So just a little pinch just between 2 fingers. Mix that salt in. Take the salt, put it out of the way. And I forgot to mention we need to preheat our oven. Very important. So I'm going to turn my oven on 350 and start. So that's preheating while I'm making my batter. If you forget to turn your oven on, that's fine. You can do it. And then wait, you'll just have to wait a little bit longer. So I'm going to stir this up really well. Now I'm going to add in my cinnamon. So for cinnamon, it has the same nice little groove. I can scrape it to make it exactly half a tablespoon, 1 full tablespoon. So I have a half tablespoon, so I'm going to do 2 half tablespoons will equal 1 tablespoon. If you don't like cinnamon, you don't have to add it. It's totally optional. This is just what the recipe's asking for. So I've got 2 half tablespoons equals 1 full tablespoon. So let's move that out of the way. I'm going to stir it up. So now I've got all of our dry ingredients all mixed and incorporated. And the reason you want to do your dry separate is so that the baking soda and the baking powder and the salt are evenly distributed, as well as the cinnamon, so you don't have chunks. So we're going to put this aside for a few minutes. Just set it back behind you, and we're going to grab our larger bowl right here. All right, so our first step is our bananas, probably the most important thing. So how I suggest you do this is grab your banana and grab your 1 cup measure right here, and you're just going to smush those bananas in. And grab your other banana. A cup is about 2 bananas. If it's not perfect or it's a little over, a little under, that's okay. Smush it in. So we've got 1 full cup of banana, and I'm going to pour it into my big bowl. Done with this, I'm going to put this aside. Now, a couple options here for mashing your banana. I like to use a mashed potato masher. If you don't have one, you can use a fork, whatever you have. Just mash it in. You can use the back of a spoon. Use whatever you have. So you're going to keep mashing it, see how it's getting all mashed. You want to make it kind of pretty soft so you don't have big banana chunks in your muffins. So smash, mash, mash. A little exercise here. All right, you tap it off. And we are done with our masher, so I'm going to remove it from our workspace so we have lots more room. And our next step is we're going to have a half a cup of oil. Calls for canola oil. I don't have canola oil, so I'm going to use vegetable oil today. You can use either one. They both work great. So this is the half cup that we used for our flour. So you can go ahead and use that for your oil. And you don't have to wash as much. Pour that in. Put it back here out of your workspace. And then a half a cup of our milk. Again, coconut milk, almond milk. You can use cow's milk. They just won't be vegan. That's fine. You could use cashew milk, hemp milk, rice milk. Possibilities are endless. Just use what you have on hand. That's the fun thing about some of these recipes is they're super flexible. I'm going to go ahead and put that back in the fridge. Okay. And find my spoon. Now, one other item that's optional if you want to put it in, I love vanilla. So I always add vanilla in all my baked goods. This does not call for it, but if you want to add a little splash of vanilla, you totally can. I'm going to today. A little splash of vanilla. And then go ahead and stir up your liquid ingredients. Will be pretty runny. All right, so I'm going to make some space here, clean up. Throw these in the sink for later. And now we're going to take our dry ingredients and incorporate them slowly into our wet ingredients. So just pour a little bit at a time. Give it a nice stir. You don't want to over stir these muffins. It'll make them really firm and not fluffy. So you just want to stir until they're incorporated. It smells amazing from the cinnamon. Keep stirring so it's all incorporated. Keep adding in your flour mixture. It's going to be pretty thick, but that's good. You want it to be nice and thick. And then I'm going to put my final bit of dry, and I'm going to put this back here to get it out of the way. All right, so we're going to just barely incorporate this into the mixture so it's nice and smooth. All right, there might be a few little lumps there. That's totally okay. All right, so here's the bonus. Along with the vanilla, I'm also going to add a little bit of chocolate chips because we love chocolate chips in our house. So if you have chocolate chips, you can add some chocolate chips. You could add some sprinkles, you could add some nuts, you could add some raisins, you could add anything you wanted, or you can just leave it as is. Totally up to you. So I'm gonna incorporate those I'm gonna incorporate those chocolate chips. I like the mini chocolate chips. And then we're going to get them ready for the oven. So you're gonna grab a muffin tin. I've got one right here. And we're gonna start lining our muffin tin. If you don't have liners, you can definitely spray with some nonstick spray. You can put some butter on each of the muffin tins, but you wanna make sure that you get them really well oiled and so they don't stick if you don't have liners. I like liners because it's less mess. And you're gonna fill all these up, and then you're going to fill each muffin tin about 3/4 of the way full. Makes 12 muffins. I like to use, when I fill my muffin tins, I like to use a cookie scoop. You can use a measuring cup, you could use a spoon, whatever you have on hand. I just find a cookie scoop, or even an ice cream scoop will work. It's really nice and easy. So I'm gonna take a full scoop and I'm just gonna pop it in there. And you keep doing this until you fill them all the way up. Once you fill these all up, you're gonna go ahead and put them in the oven for 30 to 35 minutes. So just make sure you check on them and they don't burn. Have a parent help you with the oven. You don't want to do that by yourself. So have a parent help you with that. And when they're done, I made some earlier so I could show you how they look. Here's a couple of examples. This is how they turn out. Chocolate chips in there, nice and fluffy. One way to know that they're done is you can stick a toothpick in, and if it comes out clean, that means they're done. Once you pull them out of the oven, let them sit on top of the oven for maybe 20 minutes. Pull them out of the muffin tins, let them cool all the way, and then you can store them in your fridge. I would definitely store them in the refrigerator, they'll last longer. You can also freeze them, and you can enjoy them. So let me know if you have any questions, and I will put the link in any other notes that I have in the notes on the YouTube. So talk to you soon, kids. Have a great day. Happy baking.